Oh, hey! So, welcome back to my channel. I'm Courtney, and this is The Accounting Struggle. So, if you have not already, please go to theaccountingstruggle.com so you can subscribe, and you can subscribe to this channel as well. I usually do the blog post first, and then I do a follow-up video, usually the week later, just, because everybody doesn't like to read. So basically I'm giving you the same look. I'm giving you the exact same look from another video because I filmed them in the same day because I'm busy and I got time today. So I do apologize for that. But a girl's gotta monopolize her time. So yeah, today's video is going to be on a really old blog topic, and that one is going over budget. I especially feel like this is a great time to make this video because I know it's intern season, it's busy season. You're going to be doing a lot more projects. Confusion is usually heavy. I know this is the time of year that I did my internship, and man, have I been over some budgets before. So I'm not even gonna pretend like I have never gone over budget. I've gone over budget. Like if there was an award for going over budget, I would win that. And I'm not saying that proudly. I'm just telling you, like, I know how to bust a budget wide open, and that is not a good look, and people get real tired of that. I have a few things that you should put into place so that you can try and avoid going over budget, staying as close to budget as possible. Not all budgets are created fairly or correctly. Sometimes you maybe have circumstances that just change what the budget should be. Maybe it was never accurately put together in the first place, but you should also respect the budget, and it shouldn't be something like, well, they say 2 hours, but child, I'm gonna just take 5. Like that's not cute either. So my 3 tips, number 1 is understanding the budget. So the first tip for understanding the budget is knowing what the budget is truly. And a lot of times people will assign you work and they won't tell you how long it's supposed to take. That doesn't mean you should just guess or take how long you want. You should follow up with them. Is there a budget for this that we've already established? Or just go back to them and ask them, how long are you expecting this to take? About how much time? If they don't know, maybe it's a new client, maybe it's the first year, then you'll have maybe to look at the work to just try and gauge. But usually if someone prepared it before you, the year before, maybe somebody was way more experienced, then obviously you're going to take a little bit longer. Or maybe you're more experienced than the person who prepared it the prior year, then it should be a little bit faster. So budgets are great guides, but they're not always going to be perfect. But understanding the budget means also understanding the work that's going to go into that project. So if something says it's 3 hours, but maybe this year they have an acquisition, they have way more assets, or maybe they sold a ton of assets. Maybe there's a lot of fixed asset work. Maybe you have a lot of journal entries to do that you didn't have to do last year. Maybe you don't have as many to do as you had to do last year. There's so many different things that can impact your budget. So you really do need to get in there, kind of look around at the client's stuff before you can determine, okay, do I really have a good gauge on what this budget is, what it should be? Is it close? I always like to do like maybe a little 5-minute chat when people assign me work. I don't really like to just take stuff and be like, okay, girl, got it. I kind of want us to, let's talk about this. Let's get to know this client, because that's the best way to kind of start off on the right foot. So that's tip number 1, is just understand the budget, understand the project that you're working on. And number 2 is you need to map out a plan. So, it's really helpful if you have a routine down. For certain types of clients, they might all require a similar process. So like maybe the first thing I do is I import their trial balance, I post all their journal entries, I reconcile, their cash or whatever is the first thing you do. Then you do that first. Just have a rhythm, have a process, and then think about all the steps that you're going to need to take. It's always good to go into a project knowing what the expectations are. Again, that's why I feel like meetings and chats, even if it's something that you've worked on before, maybe just, hey, is anything different with this client that I should know about? It's just little things like that that are going to help you going forward so that you don't bust budgets open like I've been known to do. So one other thing I would say with mapping out a plan is whoever prepared it a year before you, so maybe this is your first year preparing it, it's always good to sit down and talk with them and say, like, where do you start on this project? What's the best way to do this? Should I start with fixed assets? Should I start with journal entries? Should I start with auditing cash? Like, I guess that's what y'all do. I don't know what auditors do, but I think it's like auditing cash. I think that's a thing. So yeah, just try to figure out what the best process is and how to tackle it, especially if it's a huge project. If it's something that is, 25, 65 hours, you'll want to say like, okay, let's really talk about what is the plan for this and how should I go about it. And that way you'll be able to gauge if you're staying on track. So if this is say like a big project, like to me, big is like, if it's a tax return and it's going to take 40 hours, that's a big return for me. So I would say, how do I know if I'm on track at 20 hours if I don't know what on track feels like? So you really need to figure out what the expectations are and just get with the person who did it before you, or get with the manager, or if it's a brand new client, just talk to the people on your team, like how should this feel? Where should I be around the halfway mark? And then I would say always check in. If you feel like things are popping up, things are turning left and right, like, oh, you know what, we're missing this, we have these open items, just always communicate with the person that you are, whoever the engagement manager is on your project, so that way as things come up, they can reach back out to the client if they need to, they can know what's going on. So that way if the budget needs to be readjusted or what have you, that can happen as well. So I would say communication is key. If you feel yourself going over budget, if you feel like you're stuck on something, definitely communicate. If something comes up, like if you see something, say something. So that's tip number 2. So the first thing is understanding the budget. The second thing is mapping out a plan, and it needs to be a solid plan. The third thing I would say is know when to let go. You have to ask for help. I cannot stress this enough. I think it's important to put together a list of questions and ask them at once, so that way not every single thing that you have a question about, you have to ask it immediately. Like if it's a situation, yes, address it immediately. But if it's something like, I'm not sure about this, I'm gonna ask her about that, put together a little list as you're going along, because sometimes the answer to one question is answered in the process of you going through. You just have to get through, once I post this entry, I fixed it, and look at that, I don't even have that question anymore. So just make sure you keep a little list of all your questions and say, hey, I'm at the halfway mark, or I'm about done. I took it as far as I could with this return, but if you have a few minutes, I would love to sit down with you. I got some questions, some things I'm not sure about. So just do as much as you can without having to ask questions, but don't be stuck. I know oftentimes people will say, we don't want you to spin your wheels. We don't want you to be stuck on stuff. Make sure you ask questions. And then when you ask, they're like, did you check? Did you look at and it's like, well, sis, why'd you ask me to ask if you're not going to let me feel welcome to ask? And that can be very frustrating. It can be intimidating. It can make you feel like, well, I'm going to just have to figure it out myself because I don't want to keep bothering them. That's the wrong attitude to have. You need to keep bothering them. And it doesn't need to be in an annoying way. Like, use professional judgment, obviously. But like I said, if it comes down to either I'm going to have to sit here all day and hope that I come up with the answer, or I'm going to ask someone, ask. Don't sit there and be like, I'm going to figure it out eventually. Like, you need to utilize as many resources as you can. But if you're finding that you are just simply not sure how to do something, or you have a situation that's coming up and you don't know what you're doing, you can't seem to get over it, you can't seem to find the answer, ask the person that's either the senior or the manager, the engagement manager. Ask someone on your team, because 9 times out of 10, when you bring that situation to them, they're going to say, oh, wow, that's different this year. They didn't have that. I'm going to have to ask them about that. And then you're like, oh, I sat there trying to figure this out all this time, and it's an extenuating circumstance. So don't do that, because you're going to blow these budgets and you don't have to. So communicate as issues arise, and just know when to quit. Do not spin your wheels. Spinning your wheels is not that's just not it. It's just not it. And I know how easy it is to like fall into that and be like, well, I don't want to keep bothering them because like they just seem so annoyed. It's either that or you're not going to get your work done. What's good? You want to go home or you want to go to jail? Like, which one? Just ask the question, because otherwise you're not going to be able to get your stuff done. So a way to feel more comfortable about it, like I said, put your questions together in a list and ask them maybe in groups, so that you're not every single time you have a question like, how do I do this? Do I take 179 on this? Can I take bonus? Like, so that you're not having to continuously peck away at that person. Put all your questions together that you can, ask them at once, set up a meeting, say, hey, if you have some time in the morning, I would love to go over a couple things with you. Or sometimes I'll do a whole return and then I'll say, I took this return as far as I could, but I had the following questions, or I have the following open items, and then send it to them. But don't try to figure out stuff that you don't know the answer to. And because what you think, you might think like, oh, it's going to look so good if I can figure this out. That's going to be lit. Guess what's not going to be lit? If you're 5 hours over budget. That's not cute. And you still didn't find an answer. Then now you look crazy. So don't do that. I'm going to ask you not to do that. So those are my 3 tips. Tip number 1 is understand the budget. If you don't know what it is, start by asking. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is to map out a plan, have a solid plan in place. Okay, I'm gonna start with this, then I'm gonna print off my journal entries. I'm gonna have all my checklists together. I'm gonna know exactly what steps I'm taking, and I'm gonna communicate as things arise that are probably gonna have a huge impact on this budget. And I would say tip number 3 is just know when to let go. Those are my 3 tips for trying to stay on budget, staying as close to the budget as possible. And if you have any tips that maybe I hadn't thought about, let me know in the comments what works for you. How do you stay on budget? How are you so fast? How are you so good at this? Let me know. I'm very interested. And if you found this video to be helpful, give it a thumbs up. But yes, please comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Bye.